Welcome, everybody. I'm Joanna Pecori. I'm the director of the Asian Arts and Culture Center, and I want to welcome you all to tonight's program. I'd first like to let everybody know that this program is being recorded, and we would like you to remain muted and keep your cameras off at the request of our guest, Nico Gozal. And let's see, this program complements the Asian Arts and Culture Center's current exhibition, Forever Indonesian, A Journey Through Art, Nico Gozal's visual diary of how his Indonesian heritage continues to shape and influence his thoughts, beliefs, and artistic inspiration as an immigrant living in the United States. With these programs, Asian Arts and Culture Center continues its spring 2022 season, Roots and Branches, honoring the past, shaping the future, showcasing the work which recognizes and honors rich Asian heritages, embraces contemporary Asian and AAPI experiences, realizes new visions for the future of Asian and AAPI communities. Forever Indonesian, A Journey Through Art continues in the Asian Arts Gallery at Towson University through May 14th. We also invite you to visit our mini exhibit, Wayang Kulit, Javanese Shadow Puppets. This exhibit is in the vitrines outside of the Asian Arts Gallery in the Center for the Arts at Towson University, and shows several puppets from the Wayang Kulit Javanese shadow puppetry. So, and we also have some upcoming programs. On March 29th at 11 a.m., there will be a demonstration of Balinese performing arts, music, and dance. And then starting on April 8th, we begin our Asian North Festival, which will go through May 28th. Some of the highlights of that program, which still have to be unveiled, so you're getting the first inside scoop on this. There will be an exhibit called Remembrance, Resilience, Power, and Pride at the Still Point Theater and Motor House in the Station North Art District, featuring, it's a group show featuring works from local Asian and AAPI artists. There'll also be a living altar called Growing Our Gardens. And there will be an opening event on April 8th at 6 p.m. And then on Saturday, April 23rd, this group might be interested. We will have a Javanese puppet show, Shadow and Soul, at the Still Point Theater, and that will be at 8 p.m. And then there'll be a performance on May 12th by Dong Shi called Undercurrents. It's a combination of Chinese dulcimer and world percussion. There will also be some other exhibits, performances, talks, and films that you will be able to read about and find out about once we post our publicity on our social media and through our email. So please keep your eyes and ears open for that information. We also have a limited number of Korean kite making kits that integrate art, social studies, and engineering, and we invite you to order those kits if you would like them. Before introducing Nico, I'd like to mention that Asian Arts and Culture Center is a self-support department of Towson University. It means that our operations and programs are made possible from memberships, grants, sponsorships, and individual donations from people like you. I'd like to thank all of you who have already contributed to the Asian Arts and Culture Center. You're the ones who make it possible to advocate for cultural equity, build empathy and cross-cultural understanding, and speak out against anti-Asian hate through our programming. If you've not already done so, please make a donation tonight of $10 or more to show your support by going to our website. You can donate from almost any page on the sidebar. There's also a support us page, which describes the many ways you can support the Asian Arts and Culture Center. And at this time, I'd like to take a moment to thank the generous donors who have made this season's programs possible. It's the Maryland State Arts Council, the citizens of Baltimore County, Yoshinobu and Kathleen Shiota, the Central Baltimore Partnership, the Asian Arts and Culture Center members and donors, Baltimore Community Foundation, Towson University Fine Arts College of Fine Arts and Communication, the Roe and Marius P. Johnson Legacy Charitable Fund, the Towson University Department of Music, the Harold J. Kaplan Foundation, Towson University Marketing and Communications, Towson University College of Fine Arts and Communications Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Robert Mintz and Beth Arman, Anthony and Bonnie Montcalmo, Alexander Nagel, Connie Rosemont and John Greenberg, Richard and Joanne Vatz, Towson University Center for Student Diversity, Baltimore Changwon Sister City Committee, and Clothes Were the Days. Thank you to all of you who support us. Finally, I'd like to ask all of you to please complete our evaluation form at the end of the program. Your feedback is essential to keeping our programs funded. Before introducing Nico, I'd also like to welcome you and let you know that you can type any questions you have during his talk in the chat. We'll do our best to address those. And now I would like to introduce Nico Gozal. Nico's cross-cultural art training is rooted in his country of origin, Indonesia. He moved to the United States in 1990 to pursue a degree in fashion design. After its completion, Nico was mentored by a renowned silk artist, Jane Murray Lewis. Nico's love of music, dance, languages, and literature intensely influences him in his work. In late October 2018, Nico embarked on a new art career by moving to the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Since then, he's participated in various groups and solo shows in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Now, in addition to his commercially accessible art, Nico creates paintings that bring the sights, textures, and rich multicultural heritage of Indonesia to life. In addition to this exhibit at the Asian Arts Gallery, you can also find Nico's work at the Maryland Galleries, Artworks at 7 Gallery in North Beach, Gallery 57 West in Annapolis, North End Gallery in Leonardtown, and Cat C Gallery in Towson. I'd like to turn the program over now to Nico Gozal.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me in this Zoom tutorial about silk painting, specifically using Gutta Serti technique, which is a resist. What's so special about this particular technique is we use Gutta, which is a rubber base, and also there's some product that is a water-based material. We use it to outline the design on the silk, and when the Gutta dry, it will block the silk, and when you drop the dye, it won't spread. It's only spread as far as the Gutta line. I will show you exactly how it works later on. So now to start, let's go over a few tools and material. So Gutta comes in 2 different base, rubber base and a water base, and it can be interchangeable. You can use both in the same project or one or the other, depending on what your preference is. This one is the solvent base. This one is a rubber base. They also come in tubes that you can use with the applicator already attached to the tube. With the one that comes in the bottle, we do need an applicator, which usually come in the form of a plastic bottle like this, and you have to get a separate metal tip to attach to it. The tip itself come in like 2 or 3 different sizes. It's almost as fine as the mechanical pencil tip that we use. So here's the Gutta bottle that's already filled up with the tip, and I usually put wire on the tip when I'm not using it so it won't dry out. And the next thing will be the dyes. It comes into different product as well, depending on how we are going to set the dye at the end of the project. What I'm using most of the time are either a jacquard product or the DuPont product. Both of these dyes, I need to steam set it at the end of the project. So to set the color on the silk so it won't run, we have to put the silk in a bundle of paper and then steam it for about 2 or 3 hours for the dye to set. There are different type of dye. Actually, it's paint. They call it dye because it's a silk painting, but it's actually paint that it's very, very thin. So it's very liquidy, very, it's a similar characteristic the real dye. So here are a couple of samples of different silk paint that we can use. With the silk paint, it's easier to set it because all you need to do is iron it. At the end of the project, once the paint is dry, all you have to do is iron your silk, and that's it. It's all set. Now about the silk, I usually use Habotai silk, which is basically a white Thai silk or China silk. It comes in different weight. I usually use number 8, and I can hopefully show you. This is number 5. You can see it's pretty thin, it's pretty transparent, and this is number 8. It's a little thicker. It's not as transparent as number 5. And there is another one up, which is number 10, it's a little thicker than number 8. So depending on how you like your project and how you like the end product to look, there's various type of silk you can use, but also you can use silk charmeuse, silk shantung, any type of silk that's white that you can dye, you can use. Then that's usually what silk artists that make ties or scarf, they use better, I guess, not better quality, but different variety of silk that's more for fashion rather than painting. All of this product you can find through an online company based in California. It's called Dharma Trading. They specifically cater to products that have anything to do with fiber art, fabrics, whether it's tie-dye, silk painting, batik, whatever you can think of, they have it if it's something to do with fabric. So now the final thing will be the brush. I usually just use the regular brush because it serves the purpose, even though when I was taught silk painting, they suggested to use the sumi brush, which mostly I think it's used for like Chinese painting and calligraphy. I don't particularly like it. For what I'm doing, I like to just use regular brush. Now, in regards of the design, I always start with paper. I always do the design on paper first. Some people might feel comfortable to do it directly on the silk. I'm not that good, so I have to do it on paper first and then trace it onto the silk. So for the first video that I'm going to show you is the tracing. Let me see if I can pull that up. Does it show on the?
It is showing, but you have that bar. If you can get that.
Bar?
It's okay. It's the controls for Zoom.
Oh, I see. Okay, so once you have the design, all what you do is you tape the paper onto the surface very tight, so there's no bubble, there's no air. And then on top of it, you lay down the silk, and then you tape it tightly as well, so there's no bubble, no air, to make the tracing process easier. I usually tape as many space as possible just to make sure it's really, really flat on the surface. To trace, I prefer using mechanical pencil because the tip is very small, and uh, compared to the regular pencil, sometimes it can smudge, and uh, because the lead is thicker, it's harder to cover it up with the Gouda line later. Also, I would suggest to use the H tip rather than the B, because the B is a little darker. It can create smudges as well, depending on how your hand moves when you're tracing it. So right now, what the video is showing is just basically I'm tracing my design from the paper onto the silk. So at this point, Joanna, is there any question?
Hi, Nico. I don't see any in the chat, but I actually had a question. When you were
Okay.
talking about ironing, I
Yeah.
was wondering, how do you iron the silk without ruining it?
Oh, just use the low setting. Like I think some iron have the different setting for chiffon and for silk, for rayon or linen. Just make sure you follow that setting, and yeah, you just do it. Uh, don't do it too long.
Directly on
Yeah,
the,
directly on.
okay, I don't see any other questions.
Okay. So basically, um, with this part, we're just tracing until it's completed. Once
Oh, there is
it,
one
oh,
question
okay.
that just came up. What is the longest tracing session you've had? That's a question from Jennifer Treadwell.
The longest tracing session. Uh, if I have a very intricate design and rather large, it probably can take me a whole day, like an 8 hour, just dedicated one day to just tracing. So now let me move on to the next step, because basically, tracing is really pretty straightforward. The next step would be stretching it on a frame to start the Gouda. So here, I just use a regular frame that painter used to stretch canvas. You can get this frame different sizes at local art store like Michael's carry them. If not, you can always order from Amazon. They carry everything. You pick the frame that is closest to the size of your silk, so you can pretty much stretch the silk onto the frame from side to side. I use foam board, like little pieces of foam board, to raise the silk from the frame so it's a little elevated, so the dye won't keep touching the frame, because as you can see on my frame, there's blotches of color. That's when the dye kind of bleed onto the frame. So yeah, to attach it with push pin onto the frame with the foam core on the back of it, you basically put the pin and the foam core as many as possible. Yeah, sometimes it's snag and you just have to move it a little bit and redo it. You put you stretch, yeah, you stretch it as many point as possible to make sure the surface is tight and level and even. Now on the top part, you see my silk is not wide enough to reach the other side of the frame. So what I do is I cut pieces of fabric and then attach it to the silk with regular straight pin so that I can pull it and stretch it to the other side of the frame. Any question at this point?
I don't see any. If any come up while you start the next one, I will just save those questions till you're done with the next section.
Okay. So that's the stretching. Once it's stretched, now we can start with the Gutta. The main thing about Gutta is the control of pressure on the bottle, because that's determine how little or how much the liquid will come out. I think in my years of silk painting, this is probably the most difficult part of it. It takes me a long time to have a good control of the pressure on the bottle to make sure that the line is fine and thin and even. So what I'm doing right now is basically I'm covering all of the pencil line with the Gouda so that it's not showing anymore. Also, while putting the Gouda, I have to make sure that every line, every corner touches to each other. Because if there is a break, there is a gap, then the liquid, the dyes will seep through, and your color will will come out of that specific area, will bleed basically. And sometimes I use another piece of wood stretcher piece to put on top of the frame like a bridge so that my hand will rest on top of it. So when I move my hand, it won't really touch the silk. Right now, as you can see, I am not using it. So my hand is kind of touching the silk. You just have to be careful moving from left to right or right to left, depending if you're left-handed or right-handed, to make sure that your hand is not brushing against the wet Gouda line. Some people do this part directly, without doing the design. You can, if you want to freehand with the Gouda line directly to the silk, you can do that as well. If you do some freehand scarf painting, for instance, I know that a lot of people does that. I just, like I said, I'm not that good, so I have to trace it and put the Gouda on top of the line. Let me move it forward a little bit so that we are not hypnotized by this. So basically, just Gouda until everything is covered. It's very meditative. This is the part that I really enjoy about doing this. It's very therapeutic to a certain degree because it helps my brain to stop talking to each other. Okay. Before we move on to the next step, let me show you the finished silk that has been all Gutta. Before we dye them though, I always make sure to check the back to make sure that there is no open line or breakage. I don't know if you can see, but in here, like right here, there's a faded area that's need to be touched up because the dye will bleed right there. Also, on the bottom here, I don't know if that helps. There's some breakage. So basically, I have to make sure to look all over the back to make sure that all the lines touch and there is no fade area that will cause the dye to bleed. So the next step will be the dyeing process. Let's see.
Do you want to take questions for Gutta? You actually have a few.
Sure.
So Randy asks, are there subjects that are better suited for this technique?
No, actually, I've seen people do variety of things, with the Gutta technique, and yeah, I don't think there's any limitation.
Great. And Narisa wants to know how long it takes for the Gutta to dry.
It's pretty quick. Once I finish the last end, usually the beginning end of it is dry. So maybe about a couple 5 minutes, and also depending on how big your stuff is.
Okay. And then Tony wants to know, oh wait, Liz wants to know, how delicate is the silk? Well, could it tear while you're doing that?
No, it's pretty strong. The silk is pretty strong, but of course, like for instance, the thin one, the number 5, it's a little less. It's a little more fragile. But no, I never tear a piece of silk just by doing the Gutta. The only possible way is that when you put your hand Guttaing on top, this thing just snaps. You know, the pin part of it, and all you have to do is just repin it.
Okay.
But that's because it's at the edge of the silk, so it's not very secure because it's frayed.
Great. And finally, Tony wants to know, how long did it take you to learn how to equally or best apply the pressure of the Gutta?
I think when I first worked for Jane, the first year I get yelled at on a daily basis because my Gutta line is not good. So it depends on, you know, and I'm kind of sloppy, so it takes me longer to make sure the line is even and thin, and yeah.
Okay, and then actually I found another question.
Mhm.
Evelyn wants to know, if she were to make a mistake, how could she erase it? Can you?
While you're Guttaing, I guess.
Yes, this is the Gutta section,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you make a mistake, to quote Julia Child, you're the only one in the kitchen, so nobody knows what mistake. If it's not that obvious, just pretend that it's part of your design, or cover it up with a different design on top of it, just like, you know, doing tattoo. If you make a mistake, cover it up. Yeah, unfortunately, you cannot really erase the Gutta. You can try with the solvent. There's a Gutta solvent. It's liquid, almost like alcohol, but even that, you cannot completely erase it. So what I usually do, I just don't tell anybody.
That sounds like a good plan. Okay, that's it for that. Want to move on to the dyeing? Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So once the Gutta line is dry, we can start to dye the silk, which, just using straight, you can use straight color from the bottle, or you can mix your own color. If you are good in color theory and good in mixing color, then you will only need to buy maybe 5, 6 bottle of dye. I am lazy, I guess. I buy every color dye there is because I just enjoy the color as well. But yeah, the dye can be mixed into various colors. So you can do it straight off the bottle, mix it. You can thin it to make it a pastel color. You can put black to darken it. Unfortunately, the only color that doesn't exist in the dye is white. So if you want anything to be white, that means leave the silk negative space without the dye. You use the size brush depending on the area that you're gonna dye. Like with this particular one, I use very small brush because I'm dyeing a very small area for the branches. And as you can see, the dye pretty much does your job. You just have to dab it and then it spreads. So unlike doing watercolor where you have to make sure you color the area, touch the liner, the dye will spread on its own. And as long as the Gouda line is good and secure, it won't spread. It won't bleed to a different area. Let me move it forward a little bit. So now I'm using a thicker brush because I'm about to do a thicker area. See, as you can see, the dye will spread and do its job on its own. I think there's a bleeding somewhere, so I have to touch it up with the Gouda a little bit. In theory, I was taught to have one brush for every color, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm too lazy, so I just dip my brush in water and switch it to the next color. It works. As you dye the painting, if there's any leakage or bleeding, just touch it up with the Gouda. If you encounter leakage or bleeding with the dye, you can still fix the painting. It's basically as long as you cover the mistake with a darker color, then it works. Otherwise, you can try to dilute it with dropping clear water on top of the mistake, and that way the dye will um, become faded. Then you can cover it up with a maybe not so dark color on top of it. Also, some people like to make a color guide before they start dyeing, which means you color your pencil drawing or your initial drawing with to play around with different color to make sure that you have the right color before you use the dye on the silk. I don't usually do that because it's yet another step, but that's something you can do to make sure that you like the color before you start dyeing it. Because otherwise, if if you made a mistake with the dye, as I mentioned earlier, it's pretty hard to change the color. It's not like oil painting or acrylic when you can basically put color on top of color and it doesn't matter, it will cover it up. With the dyes, you can only do that from lighter to dark. That's why also I think when it comes to shading, with acrylic you go from dark to light. With silk painting, it's always light to dark, because once it's dark you cannot cover it up with a lighter color. To do a large area, it is advisable to move pretty fast. Depending on the temperature in your room, if the dye dry faster than your hand can move to cover the area, it may leave a streak, like a dry line between the part that's already dried and the part that's just recently got wet. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So usually, to cover large area, I just have to move really fast to make sure there's no streak. Or if it does happen that you have a streak, then you can just marble it to cover it up by dropping water on top of the dry dye. I can show you a little bit later how that works. So that is the finished painting. Hold on, let me show you. So here's the finished painting. And if you make a mistake or have a dry streak line, to fix it or to cover it, I should put this on a stretcher, but I'm just going to do it this way. Is to use wet brush and just dab it, and then that will create a marbling texture. Then that will help cover your mistake. Now I have to do it all over, but you get the idea though. Any question on the dye?
Yeah, there are several questions. So
Okay.
Jennifer wants to know, if you apply multiple coats, would the
Yes.
shade get darker?
If I apply multiple code, what the next part?
Would the shade get darker?
Yes, that's one way to do shading. Like if you want to do realistic painting, like face, for instance, or skin. Yes, how to do it is by layering. You start with a very light color and then gradually put more and more darker color to make sure to create the shading. Yes.
Okay. And Katie wants to know how much the color changes from when you first apply it to when it dries and it's set.
Not much. The color gets brighter and more what is the word, more vivid, I guess the good word, as it dry and then as it steam, as it's set. So in the beginning your painting may look a little dull, but once it's dry and it's steam or it's set, it becomes very shiny and lustrous.
Wow. And Liz wants to know, does it bleed if you apply too much?
It can be. It especially on the edge, especially on the edge here. If you put too much dye, let's say if you put too much dye here, then it will go down to here and bleed this way. It's not necessarily going this way, but it will find a way to from the side. So yeah, especially on toward the edge, you don't want to put too much liquid.
And Jennifer wants to know, what type of brush do you use? Yeah, I guess she wants to know if it's a watercolor brush. I think you said it was a regular brush, but I think
Yeah, I use to answer that question, I use a cheap brush. So I don't know what is it for, but it's just like, one of those $9.99 a pack type of brush. Because especially with the brush, I submerge them in water too long, and it becomes like very the wood part start peeling. So I don't really want to spend too much money on the brush personally. But depending on what you are creating, you may need a better quality brush, for instance, because I noticed that the cheaper brush, sometimes the hair part start to frayed and fall apart, and yeah, it gets annoying.
Okay. And also, Katie wants to know, do you have to be aware of mixing certain colors together? For example, will some react with others to create an unexpected color?
Not in my experience, no. You pretty much get what you think you're going to get. Especially if you're good with your color theory and what goes with what become what. It's usually pretty true to that. It's not like I've been watching the ceramic series on TV when you apply one color and as soon as you heat it, it becomes a different color. It's not like that.
And then Evelyn wants to know, do you apply anything to protect the color from fading?
Once you set it, either steam it or iron it, theoretically it should set just fine. But I always put a disclaimer behind my painting because it's just like any other printed material, like posters or watercolor. If you expose it to UV light too long, it will fade. One way of protect it, if you use a UV protected glass or plexi, that will help. Also, some artists, they do spray a thin layer of the UV protected spray you can get from the paint store. But other than that, with scarves and ties, usually once you steam it, you iron it, you should be good.
Okay. Randy wants to know, is the shine from the silk or the paint?
It's both, but the silk contribute quite a lot because the silk have luster in the fiber, so that really helps the shine.
And then Hope is asking, is it customary to have the entire piece of silk dyed or painted?
No, however, in my experience, it's very difficult to keep a white part of the silk white, because let me just show you an example. I'm doing this painting right now, but I made a mistake, and you see now I have to cover it up with something because the dye splatter if you're not careful. But no, you don't have to color everything. You definitely can leave part of it white, like that picture behind me, for instance. Obviously, I leave most of the silk white, and I'm pretty lucky with this one. I didn't make much noticeable mistake.
Wow. Okay. I think that's it for the dye section. That's a lot of questions.
That's good. So that's pretty much the general idea of silk painting using Gutta Serti technique. So once we have all the pieces together, either if I use the iron set dyes, then I just have to iron it. With this one, I use the steam set dye, so I have to usually collect several of them and then bundle it up with newsprint paper and then put in my steamer and steam it. So with that in mind, I think for beginners, I would advise to start with the iron set dyes, because it's easy, and everybody have an iron at home. The steamer, either you can rig it. They have a lot of tutorial on YouTube how to rig it, or you can use double steamer on your stove top, but you can only probably steam one piece at a time with that because it's very small. Or you can buy a professional steamer, which is very expensive. Dharma Trading carry that, but I don't have it either. I just rigged my own. If anybody interested in how to rig a steamer, I can definitely show you how to do that in a different time. A little bonus, I guess, trick. If you use to do a different kind of marbling background, when the dye is still wet and you throw in some table salt, you can create things like this. As you probably can see there, that's where the salt landed. You can mix different color, like this one. I think I have yellow, gray, and brown all together, and then throw the salt in, and that's what I get. That's also the fun part of silk painting, because sometimes I don't know what I'm going to get as the end result, especially with the salt or the marbling. The dyes and the water and the chemical just kind of react on its own. Let's see if I have another example. Like this one is just basically solid color, and then I brush it with water, so it faded in certain area and darken in certain area. The fun part is just to play around with it to see what you get out of trying different things. And I think that would cover my presentation for this evening. Thank you.
There was another question from Narisa about,
Yep.
She wanted to know with your portrait, did you use the Gutta for that one too?
Good eye. Great catch. No. Okay, here's another bonus. So once you stretch the silk and then you spray it with magic sizing, which is, I think it's like a starch for ironing. This thing will fill in all the silk capillaries, and it will make the characteristic of the silk just like paper. So then you can do painting without the Gutta, just like doing watercolor.
She says, oh, wow, and brilliant. And I think so. I agree. That's incredible.
Thank you. So, Joanna, if since the presentation is completed, if you want to open the forum for Q&A, do
Sure.
we
If
have
people
time?
want to turn your video and audio on, you're welcome to do so, and we can have a discussion with Nico at this point. Tony says this was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody? I don't think there's any takers. I think people are awed at your work. It's beautiful. I actually had a couple more questions.
Mhm.
So let me ask, and I'm going to turn my video on. Let's see. I just two more. I can read. How do you decide what colors to put where?
Just instinct, just gut feeling. Yeah, I don't plan it beforehand. I have a general idea, like what I want for the ground or what I want for the trees, for instance. But after that, I'll just do it.
It's incredible. They're so gorgeous. And then I had another question is like, how do you didn't tell us about making the design. What's the process of creating the design to begin with?
Oh, well, I guess to begin with, depending on what you want to make. For me personally, I generally categorize my work into 3 different categories. One is commercial, is the stuff that you can find at galleries. Like right now, for instance, I am doing cards.
Ooh.
So it's something, whimsical, kind of fun, not offensive to anybody, hopefully. And then the second part will be my Indonesian inspired work, which is something that's personal for me. I usually do it just to make me feel happy. And the third part is work that is inspired by anger, where when the world is getting too annoying, then I get angry, and then I start painting something that have more social political tone to it, I guess. Yeah, that's where I get my drawing inspiration.
Okay, I'm getting a message that's saying people can't unmute, so we have to, no wonder. Let's see. I think I unmuted. I allowed everybody to unmute. Do you want to try that? I know Anna had a question about that. Is that working, Anna?
Yeah, I see.
Believe it did now.
I hear Anna, I think. Yes.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Nico. Nico and I go back a long time.
Yep. Hi, Tony.
So excited to see you.
Likewise. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Do you have a favorite thing you like to draw, Nico? A favorite anything?
Something that sells. I don't. I think my Indonesian stuff is my favorite because it's make me happy. But my commercial stuff works too because it sells. So
Any more questions or comments?
Is there anything that's specific to the technique that lends itself to the Indonesian inspired art that's part of this exhibit?
I don't think so. Except for the fact that it allows me to do very detailed design, but then again, you know, I can do that with pencils and acrylic. So I don't think the technique specifically allow me to do that.
How long did it take you before you felt like you were proficient at this? You make it look very easy, and I'm certain it is not.
I haven't yet feel that I'm proficient at this. I still feel like I need to take classes on something. I don't know. I feel like I'm still faking it. Yeah.
Hi, Nico. I have a question.
Yeah.
First, this is my introduction to your work, and it's lovely. Thank you. Thank you for your talk and walking us through all of this. My question is, since I'm new to your work, how you deal with display, and because you're kind of in the between of painting and fiber work, and how you tackle that whole scene.
Yes. Once I steam the silk, I usually do spray it with spray adhesive and then adhere it onto paper so it becomes stiff, and then I can put mat and frames, and you know, even some of the pieces I cut them up and make different things. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Some of what you do is three-dimensional. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was looking for samples. Hold on, let me grab something. So with my 3D work, I'm not sure if it's showing well. So basically, it's this pieces, I cut them up and then create the painting that way using mat board and foam core to raise the pieces different level.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments?
How long have you been doing this for? Just out of curiosity.
I started working for Jane right out of college for 8 years. And then I moved to Chicago. And then I worked in different fields like corporate and whatnot. Not until 2015 when I start doing it again on my own for my own purpose as an artist.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nico. So yeah, I want let everybody give Nico your thumbs up and your claps and your applause. Thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that all of you, if you haven't been to the gallery, will come visit Nico's show. And if you have already seen it, come back and look even more carefully at the wonderful pieces that we do have in the Asian Arts Gallery. Again, I want to thank all of our supporters for making this event possible. And I want to shout out a special thanks to our program manager, Narisa Paglinawan, who has been behind the scenes handling our tech and to Joe Bakir, who is our intern, who's been managing our chat. You can see him there. We can wave to Joe. Thank you so much, Joe. And I'd like to remind everybody to please complete the online survey that is so helpful to us when we have to do reporting and tell people how great we are, so we can keep bringing these wonderful programs to you. And again, please don't forget to support the Asian Arts and Culture Center with a donation tonight. And that's everything. And I want to thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.